This has really changed the game in the way that we interface with our direct reports. So instead of having an annual goal that we're always striving towards and probably forget most of the time what that annual goal is, we're having regular conversations about the priorities that we have to get us to those larger goals. I actually don't look at it as a review process. I look at it as a coaching process. Basically, we do this monthly, this Big Five review monthly. I'm already meeting with my direct reports on a weekly basis. So it's a pretty natural place for us to plug it in into the conversation. We can check in on what's happening. From a managerial perspective, it also helps with accountability. Are you doing what you say you're going to do, what you're saying is important? And are those things changing every month? And if you aren't getting those things done, what help do you need from me as a manager, executive, what be it, to help you achieve those goals? That's where it's really helping us out. It's increased communication, it's increased coaching, it's increased accountability, and there's a greater level of transparency. And this is all based on the fact that the employee owns it. They write their Big Five. The manager comes back and comments on it. And it's an ownership by the employee, approved by the manager, that really I think is the bedrock of this process and program. One of the other things about Big Five is you don't look at it as an annual review process anymore. The review process is ongoing. It's dynamic and fluid. So as employees struggle, you can be there to help them. As they excel, you can be there to reward them and recognize them and congratulate them. It no longer comes to that one very painful conversation at the end of the year that both sides are fearing and regretting and have a great amount of anxiety over. It's a regular dialogue. And I think we'd all acknowledge that there's snapshots in time. An employee can be doing great in December but really struggling in March. And to try to encapsulate that in one meeting at the end of a year is, it's kind of a fallacy to think you can even do that. And wasting hours and hours and hours on preparing for that kind of meeting, trying to remember what happened in the last year is even more of a fallacy, because you're just never going to be able to accomplish it. So real conversations in real time are what I think are one of the other great benefits that this program and this process brings. So one of the other things is that this is actionable information. So with an annual review, you get your annual review as an employee, and it's static information. What are you going to do with it? The year's behind you, right? So you can't go back, or you can't fix anything, you can't adjust. Your review's done. And for us, one thing that I find is when I complete my Big Five and I send it back to the employee, they're waiting for that Big Five report. They're looking for the feedback that I've put in there. And it might just be a few words, it might be a few sentences, but overall, it's something that they're seeking. People want feedback, and they want it regularly. And I think it feeds that natural tendency to want to understand where I can improve as an employee, where I'm doing well, where I can help others. And I think that's another great benefit, is that it provides that ongoing dialogue. There's a lot of other things that I look at it, and even for myself, as I complete my Big Five for my boss, I seek that too. I'm identifying and setting up things that I think are important. The great thing about this is that when my boss is able to provide feedback to me, he has the ability to say, hey Matt, why don't you think about this too next month, because this is something that we really need to focus on. And it reminds me that, oh yeah, I need to get that done. That slipped my mind, or that is a bigger priority. It also can create a situation where I have the opportunity to push back and say, you know what, that's not going to fit next month, and here's why, and let's have a conversation about it. One of the other things about Big Five, the way it's set up, that I really like, is that it's a comment period for the employee, then a comment period back from the manager, and then it stops. Everything else goes to dialogue. You're coaching and communicating after that. So it takes the conversation outside of a review and moves it into a conversation and a dialogue about what are we going to do to fix some of the issues, what are we going to do to leverage some of the things that we're doing well. So for me, it's been great. It's also, for accountability purposes, because it's so frequent, I hate to say this, but there's nowhere to hide. You're putting everything out there that you're supposed to do in the next 4 weeks. You can't really kind of fall back on that. Well, I made those up a year ago and they're no longer relevant. Well, they're relevant because they're only a few weeks old, and it allows you to track anecdotally your employees as they go through the process. And if you do have those few occasions where you have performance issues or people that need to go and do improvement plans or something along those lines, you actually have, what I see now, more solid data than a scoring system. You have actual data that shows what they've been working on, how they haven't been performing. Your job as the manager is to make sure you record that and have that conversation formally in the Big Five. So that also helps tremendously when you're getting people into scenarios and situations where they aren't performing or choose not to perform. At NACE International, we found the top 3 benefits of the Big Five really is one, that it offers a platform for coaching. People are able to provide feedback to one another in a non-threatening way that really focuses on getting the job done instead of looking at getting a number at the end of the performance cycle. The second thing really is that it's timely. It's being done in real time. You're having a conversation with someone about relevant items and tasks that they're supposed to be focusing on. And finally, it brings a level of accountability to the management process, to the organization overall, where people get to say what they think is important, and then they have to hold themselves accountable to meeting those objectives. And for us, it's been tremendous in accomplishing those 3 things, and brings a lot of more benefits as well.